explore the obstacles faced by the aviation industry in times of blistering growth with an aim to figure out tactical solutions for the issues at hand. I'm going to request Mr. Vinay Dube, CEO Jet Airways, to moderate this session. I'd also like to invite on stage Mr. K. Shyam Sundar, CEO Air India Express, Mr. A.M. Mosaddique Ahmed, MD and CEO Biman Bangladesh Airlines, Mr. Wolfgang Prock-Schauer, Chief Operating Officer IndiGo, Mr. B.P. Sharma, CMD Pawan Limited, and Mr. Leslie Thng, CEO Vistara. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and a very warm welcome. Please take your seats on the dais. Mr. Dube, Mr. Shyam Sundar, Mr. A.M. Mosaddique Ahmed, Mr. Wolfgang, Mr. B.P. Sharma, Mr. Leslie Thng. This session is being moderated by Mr. Vinay Dube, CEO Jet Airways. I'm now going to hand the session over to the Honorable Moderator.
I think we're missing Wolfgang. He is right there. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to all of my esteemed panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss a very exciting topic. Some parts of this topic have been covered previously, but we will try and do it with a very special flair and flavor that we have here on our panelists. I will not bore you by regurgitating the many statistics of growth in Indian aviation. They have been mentioned many times before. What I will say is that this growth does not just happen. One needs to work extremely hard to generate this growth. One needs to work extremely hard to service this growth, to engineer this growth. And we have esteemed panelists over here that are going to help us understand some of the peculiar challenges that they have faced in their own entities, in their own airlines and companies, as we have grown here, not just in India, but in other parts of the world as well. We're running just a bit late, and it is this panel that is coming between yourselves and lunch, so I will get right to it and start with the first question. I will start with the first question to Mr. Sharma, CMD of Pawan. Thank you for being with us today. Let me start with the very first question, or the very first topic that comes to mind when one thinks of growth, which is the enabling infrastructure. And I don't mean just the enabling infrastructure on the ground, but it could be in the air, it could be regulatory infrastructure. So Mr. Sharma, in your space, if you could help us understand some of the challenges that you have faced in enabling and really growing that have been addressed or continue to be addressed on the infrastructure side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dube. In fact, I would take it, though I am presently looking after a helicopter company, but having my experience with the Airport Authority of India such a long time about that infrastructure. As on today, as you have been seeing from from yesterday, Indian aviation as a whole has been growing very fast. As an average of 20% per annum. What does it mean, in fact, when we say 20% per annum, it is a passenger traffic and airlines growth. Infrastructure majorly required for to sustain this growth, which basically can be divided into three parts. I will just take that. One is the infrastructure in airspace. When I say airspace, means that we should be able to facilitate more aircraft handling in airspace. Then we come to airports where that aircraft operates, take and land. And then probably connectivity of these airports through the city and the major hub airports connecting to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Presently, what we see, and probably the initiation of privatization or PPP model airports from 2006, few major airports has grown. But if you see as an overall, Airport Authority of India is also taking up large projects for capacity development. But if you see that there are airports, including Delhi, including Mumbai, present airports, and many of the Airport Authority of India airports, where they are close to their capacity of operations. Like if you see Delhi airport, it's already touching 70 million passengers as on today. I think this airport can only grow up to 100 million passengers, then what thereafter? Similarly at Mumbai, now the second airport is coming. So, and in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities also, particularly in Tier 2 cities also, there is a constraints on airside for holding of aircraft, parking of aircraft, so the development. So this is basically not that actually as on today what we are just handling. We need to, a visionary plan. If you see recently, that Mr. Kapil was there, they have published a CAPA report that airport infrastructure is under constraint and we need to properly plan to meet this growth. Similarly, in the airspace, India has a big airspace, but lot of that part is under restricted operations under the defense. So that space also has to be released probably to some extent to make it more available for the civilian growth, to meet the civilian growth. And that air infrastructure definitely includes the modernization of airspace, aircraft management in space and all that. Further coming to now, because of the new UDAN policy, the Tier 2, Tier city are just adding into the mainstream of civil aviation. And Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities require this infrastructure. And infrastructure, when we say it has to be sustainable, it has to be viable, it has to be commercially sustainable. There I feel that probably we need some system, or probably government need a policy to develop these infrastructure at Tier 2 and particularly at Tier 3 cities, which are going to be future air travel by these policies of Ministry of Civil Aviation through UDAN, where we need to develop this infrastructure. But that infrastructure probably cannot be developed on commercial terms on PPP model. Probably where there that state governments have to come and pitch in, where these small airports or probably heliports. I say that, as on today, India as a whole live almost around 60% of population in Tier 3 cities. So these Tier 3 cities has huge volume. And now when we talk about Tier 3 cities, they have the capacity to travel. So when we, let us say a single district headquarter, we only pick up 30 to 50 passengers, but you need to connect that to the airport, and that probably that heliports infrastructure is required so that this helicopter industry can do that third mile connectivity that is between Tier 2, Tier 3 or somewhere between Tier 2 and Tier 1 cities. Similarly, there is a necessity to look into this helicopter industry as a sub-subject or as a sub-model to bring the 60% of the population to air, to connect to the Tier 2 cities and then Tier 2 1 cities and all that. So there also there is a requirement of focus on this scheme. And probably when we go into the UDAN, presently, UDAN has allowed helicopter services only in hilly states, that is northeast areas, Andaman Nicobar Islands, and that hilly states in Jammu Kashmir, Lakshadweep, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. And probably this policy also need to be extended to the plain states where the Tier 3 cities can be connected to Tier cities. So that is another thing.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sharma. I appreciate it. If I could direct my next question at Mr. Ahmed, who is the MD and CEO of Biman, Bangladesh. Beyond infrastructure, to enable growth, one needs trained and skilled resources in multiple areas. And of course, the type of skilled resources that one needs, you can't produce instantaneously. It requires planning, it requires execution. Mr. Ahmed, could you help me understand from Biman's perspective, as you look back over the last few years, how you've been able to tackle the human resource angle, having the right skills at the right time at reasonable price points to be able to enable the growth of Biman, Bangladesh.
Thank you. I represent Biman Bangladesh Airlines. This is the national carrier of Bangladesh. And this airline was established in January 1972. That was only about 15, 16 days after the independence of the country. So today in our fleet, we have about 13 aircraft. I'm giving you this background because I still remember back in the early 90s, we celebrated transporting our 1 million passenger per year. So that is the year we reached the 1 million mark. Last year, our passenger carriage increased to 2.6 million. So there has been a pretty good growth for the airline itself. So two and a half times in about 20 years. But the point to note is, when we carried about 1 million passengers in early 90s, our market share in and out of Bangladesh was about 65%. Last year, with 2.6 million passengers, the market share came down to 19%. So clearly, we could not capture the share of the market that we should have. So from our perspective, I will just like to inform you the challenges that we faced. Firstly, Biman is a 100% government-owned organization. So we always have the financial constraints I believe most of the government-owned airlines will have. So to purchase the aircraft, we have to borrow money. And I don't know if I'm sure you will be aware, the cost of borrowing, it also depends on the country hosting the airline. I'm sure you understand this. So the cost of the purchase for us has been slightly higher than many other airlines. That restricted our growth. Today, the only good thing about the airline now is our fleet is almost brand new. So we have been buying aircraft starting from 2011, and the 13 aircraft that we have are fairly new aircraft. So that is one issue that has always hindered our growth. And so that was one. Secondly, as you asked me, Biman, till recently, in Bangladesh was the only airline in Bangladesh. Now, over the last, say, about 7, 8 years, a number of domestic carriers have grown. So the airline expertise that we need to efficiently run the airlines so far has been only produced within Biman. So we had to exclusively depend on our own expertise that we produce. Nowadays, lateral entries, inclusion of talent to the organization through lateral entries, that is happening, and we are getting some benefit of it. As far as the pilot training is concerned, producing pilots is a time-consuming matter. So we have recently inducted our first Dreamliners into the fleet. Those are in for about last 3 months. We are trying to use those aircraft, but then also we are facing some problems in training the pilots, making them qualified for flying the aircraft. So I think those will be over soon. And for the next aircraft coming in September This year, we will have no such problems. So these were our internal problems. I will slightly talk about the infrastructural issues that we had. The Dhaka airport, it has developed over the years, but actually could not keep pace with the growth in the market size. So it is slightly congested. It hinders our operation in and out. But from our perspective, it is not only the infrastructural availability available in the base station, it is also the infrastructural facilities available at the destination airports. I don't know how many airlines face this, but for us, getting required slots where demand is the maximum is always a challenge. And even if you get slots, definitely not at the time when you need it. So this is something we are always fighting against, and this is something which has seriously impacted us. And the domestic airports, the government has taken a lot of initiative in developing this. Those are under development, but till today, our operation to domestic destinations have been restricted by the limited facilities available there. So I think I will stop there for the time being.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Appreciate that. I will direct my next two questions at Mr. Sundar first, and then Mr. Thng next. Mr. Sundar is the CEO of Air India Express, and as we reflect back, certainly on India's growth rate, Mr. Sundar, and you look at double digits, upwards of 20% for several years in a row. I go back to a lot of my training in various parts of the world when you look at demand, and historically, air travel has been reasonably closely tied to growth in GDP or some measure close to GDP. Certainly, if you look at India's GDP numbers, they're very exciting, but they're not upwards of 20% 5 years in a row. So clearly, there is a very large amount of demand that's being stimulated by the airlines. Certainly, Air India Express is one such airline that has been stimulating demand. So could you give us a sense of the challenges you face in stimulating demand? Because historically, airlines have been very rich in data. But when you're stimulating demand, you're going into routes where data doesn't exist, where you're creating data. So give us a sense of how you decide where to fly, where demand really exists for you to stimulate, and what are the challenges of then growing that over a period of time?
First, let me introduce myself as Shyam Sundar, CEO of Air India Express, and to say that Air India Express is a wholly owned subsidiary of Air India. It adopts a very different strategy of staying in niche markets on a low-cost model, and it served the airline quite well over the past 4 years. Well, all the routes that ever happened in India over the first 50 years or so of domestic aviation and international aviation were all virgin routes at some time, which had to be assessed and had to be operationalized. So in Indian Airlines, where I worked earlier, and then Air India, and now Air India Express, we have the unique distinction of always going into uncharted territories. Some of them are no-brainers. I want to first address the lack of data. The data that we have today becomes increasingly inadequate to address even things such as straightening a route, which is at this time served via a first point, an intermediate point, simply because the market share of low-cost carriers has increased considerably. It's hovering around 65 to 70% at this time. And the low-cost data does not get into the GDSS, so those who are churning out databases are making some kind of educated guesswork. And when these low-cost carriers start operating with a one-hop as many of the new routes, new connections, I believe there are about 400 city ONDs, 400 ONDs connected directly in India. And many of them would have originated with one hop somewhere so that you hedge your bets and do not get into a connection, for instance, between Kolkata and Cochin without having something beyond Kolkata to make sure that you have the numbers. And another aspect of the challenge is that you do not have a good idea of what is happening in the surface transport. There are about 175 million passengers who use the upper class, the premium classes on trains, and there is no clear information available in any website or sponsored website where you would be able to look at and gauge what could be a suppressed or potential demand for operating a new sector. There's, of course, the compulsion which Mr. Ajay Singh expressed yesterday about the need to get creative about your ONDs. Pretty much Delhi and Mumbai are shut for any further expansion of any great kind until all the expansion in the new airport comes into being. So the necessity has created innovation in a way, and airlines are now operating something like 47 flights a day out of a place like Cochin, which perhaps is a clear indication of the depth of markets of which we're not really very sure. We get pushed in and then we see that it's after all a gold mine. The government's initiative to do the VGF for regional connectivity is another kind of, what shall I say, a kind of insurance that an airline looks for to enter into virgin markets. At the end of the day, Vinay, demand has always got to be against the reference to price. And I do believe that is where a lot of the struggles have been and might continue to be in the event fuel again goes back to the, climbs a high horse and goes back to $80 or $100. So that is a challenge that all airlines have to meet, and I'm waiting to hear Prock-Schauer speak on that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's not even mention $90 or $100 and fuel in the same sentence. I think we're all better off without that. Thank you for that. Yes, it is hard work when you are running blind, when you have to be creative about ONDs. And I'll come back to this theme in a bit for a question that I will have for Mr. Sharma in just a little bit. But let me turn for the second part of the question to Leslie Thng, CEO of Vistara. Leslie, certainly for a carrier like yourself or Jet Airways, where you are targeting as much the high-yielding traffic, the corporate traffic, in an environment where low-cost carriers are busy stimulating demand, both in creative ONDs, but certainly from a price point perspective, how does one go about, and the challenges you faced in terms of attracting this high-yielding traffic, which is also growing within India at a considerable pace?
Thank you. I think, first of all, good afternoon to all. I would like to just start by saying that I think all of us who work in the aviation industry should have a big as well as strong heart, as well as be optimistic, to take on whatever is unexpected as well as whatever challenges that may come. I think personally, I look at things differently. If you look at the India market as a whole, where the ministry has already mentioned about the very strong potential of this market with a growing GDP, with a very exponential growth expected in the future, and with the propensity of customers to pay more. I think these are really opportunities. So I think for us at Vistara, we would like to see this as more as an opportunity. The market is dominated by low-cost carriers for a reason. I think we see it something that is, someone is playing the role to stimulate the market. I think we would then take on the opportunities where we could move customers who are traveling on a low cost up the value chain to travel on a full service carrier. I think this is something that we would like to see at Vistara in terms of taking that on as an opportunity. Then to us at Vistara is really how then do you define your business model. I think for the business model, we look at 3 different dimensions. The first part is more in terms of sustainability. The second part is more in terms of relevant. And the third part, which we think is becoming more and more important, is actually on agility. We try to make these 3 dimensions, we try to apply these 3 dimensions to both different sets of stakeholders, the external stakeholders as well as the internal stakeholders. When we mention about the external stakeholders, is what Vinay spoke about. One of them is actually the customers, the target group that we are targeting. Then how do we invest in product? How do we invest in services which are relevant for the target group that we are targeting? I think we all know that investment in an airline industry doesn't come cheap. Whatever you decide in terms of your aircraft type, in terms of the cabin product that you put on board, is going to stay with you for at least 5 to 10 years. I think it's something that when you make a decision, it's something that you have to make sure that it is sustainable. At the same time, we work with many vendors as well as partners in terms of trying to make the partnership or business relationship sustainable. India is a different market. The margin in India compared to the margins in many different parts of the world is very different. So I guess for many of the vendors and partners in this room, when we start to work together, I think we need to look at how we can make the relationship sustainable from a cost perspective to make sure that we, as a full-service airline, has the most cost-effective structure. I think at the same time, the part on relevant is we just have to make sure that we have to keep a pulse on the market. Whatever we know about the customers now, whatever we expect what the customers are requiring at this moment may change over time. I think it's something that we just have to continue to innovate, we just have to continue to renovate to make sure that whatever we provide as a service remain relevant to the target segment. At the same time, there are also new segments that will come up within this market. I think it's something that we have to continue to look at that. The third part on agility is more in terms of trying to make sure that you have a structure that is nimble enough and flexible enough to make the changes that is required. Because as I said in the beginning, we expect the unexpected. The market is so dynamic that you may have to make changes to your business model, you may have to make changes to what you think 3-4 years ago and what is relevant now. And how do you make sure that the whole ecosystem within your organization can support the high growth that this market is projecting? I think this is the set of external stakeholders, including, of course, the government, the ministry, that we will continue to engage and make sure that whatever policies that has been implemented are relevant and sustainable in the years to come. The other part that I think, which is equally important, is actually the internal stakeholders. I think this is one part that we at Vistara strongly felt it is very important, one of the key enabler for us to achieve the goals that we have set ourselves in the next couple of years, which is really your staff, which is really all of us in Vistara. How do we then create the culture that we want to support what we need to do? The part on sustainability is really how do you define your own talent recruitment, whether it's pilots, whether it's cabin crew, or whether it's a support staff. What kind of structure, pay structure, what kind of benefits that you are extending to your internal stakeholders, which is important, but you have to look at it in terms of making sure that it is sustainable, because we are talking about an airline that is expected to grow many years to come. We are not just adopting a short-term view in terms of trying to stimulate the market, trying to achieve a significant market share in the next 3-4 years, and then without considering what would happen when an airline like Vistara of a certain size at this moment grow to a bigger size in the next couple of years. What kind of policies, what kind of benefits we have within the system that is sustainable for all our colleagues within Vistara. At the same time, the culture, which I spoke about very briefly just now, I think is equally important. I think we are fortunate enough to say that we are a relatively young airline. I think we are emphasizing a lot in terms of trying to build the right culture in Vistara so that the organization then is about the organization, the system, the procedures, the people around the system, and it's not dependent on anyone within the system that if he or she is not around, the whole structure, the whole organization will not be able to function as what it is as effectively as it want to. I think these are the things that we felt it is important for us at Vistara to sort of take into consideration the challenges and try to turn it into opportunities. I think I just want to put a caveat before I conclude to say that whatever I've mentioned just now is relevant for Vistara. It may not, it is how we see it. It is how we think we want to take this going forward in the context of India as a very competitive, but at the same time, promising market. We are still not there yet, but I think what we believe at Vistara is that whatever we put in place should take us where we want to belong to. I think this is something that I just wanted to take this opportunity and this forum to share with many of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Leslie. Appreciate it. Guten Tag, Herr Prock-Schauer. Thank you for being patient and waiting. We're finally come to you. I think most of you know that Wolfgang has been in India since 2003. He's a veteran of many aviation wars here. Wolfgang, we're all waiting for you to write a bestseller sometime soon, but we're lucky to have you on the panel as a preview for a veteran of Indian aviation. Could you help us with your very particular vantage point of some of what you have seen, some of the challenges that you have personally gone through, and how you've weathered that?
Thanks, Vinay. So don't expect a book from me. I prefer to speak at these conferences. So I've been here since 2003, and having seen that this industry was growing from a size where we had in the country 2003 450 aircraft, now we are approaching 700 aircraft. If you see that development, what we went through, how many airlines have started, continue to be successful. So actually a very diverse industry has developed during this last, let's say, 15 years. And if you look from the market, definitely the market for airlines is there. The country is very vast. A railway sometimes takes 20, 30 hours to reach a place. Aircraft is the most convenient mode of transportation. Indians live in different parts of the country, live different parts of the world, so the market is huge. So we can make all the opportunities to exploit it. And I said that because it looks like, you know, the government vision of 1 billion air travelers is like so far-fetched away. But if you look at the figures and analyze it, you can see, for example, what I mentioned to you, the past growth. So yes, from right now we have something like 200 million plus passengers, but it grows at 20%, continues, then this is achievable. The other part of it, but we all need to work on it to achieve it. If you look, generally speaking, you have in globally 7 billion people on this planet and 7 billion air travelers. So the relationship is 1 to 1. If you compare now 200 to 1.3, 1.4 billion, you can see there's a huge demand. And the way the economy is developing and India is developing as a country, definitely there is room to move towards that vision. Will it be 1 billion? Will it be 600, 700 million? Definitely there will be a growth 3-4 times as much as we have now. Now, let's address what we have learned in the past, what we need to do to achieve it. I mean, the major issue is, in my opinion, is infrastructure. And infrastructure is not a single pointing finger at, let's say, airports. Infrastructure is everything. Infrastructure is the slots in the airport, the terminal capacity, how we use the airspace more efficiently, how the air traffic management works, so that we get really best out of the available infrastructure. This is one element. And here I think this is one key aspect. And I can also say what I've seen in the past. I have seen Mumbai Airport at the, let's say, movement per hour at maybe 20 when I was here. Now I was very glad to hear that at one day Mumbai Airport had 1,000 movements per day, which was unthinkable 15 years ago. So we are moving in the right direction. One airport slower, one airport faster, but the need is definitely there because the major airports need upgradation, and I'm not only talking about building terminals, I'm talking making most efficient use of the resources, which is very much slots. Terminal building we can all handle. There's a lot of automation now in place, so that will be manageable. Now, if you look, parking base is another aspect which needs to be taken care of. So everything needs to be there. If you want to fly a route, you need a parking bay, you need a slot, and naturally you need a terminal to handle it, and then you need an airspace which is used in optimum manner. And right now, 78% of the travel in India is still with the top 12 airports. So this is one key priority we must handle. Then 15 years ago, we used basically 50 airports. Now we use 100, which is absolutely right because the country is so vast, the demand is there. But that upgradation, it's not only building a terminal, that we must have the right approach procedures. We must move more towards a satellite-based navigation so that otherwise we cannot accommodate all this growth, which we all think is there. The third element I want to touch upon is two more things I want to mention. Human resources. 15 years ago, it was a real struggle to get the right people, especially on pilot side, it was nearly impossible. But now we can see on first officer side, if we ask for an interview, we get 200 applications coming for a walk-in interview. A lot of people, so if a country like India is on the move, it's moving. Captain is a bit more, let's say, difficult because you have a lead time, but and I'm talking for IndiGo here, if we have 2,500 pilots in totality, half of them co-pilots, you generate on your own all the captains you need because after 4 years they become captains. So that also eases out now. Human resources were a real issue before. Now I see that actually human resources is not so much of an issue here. And government has set up a lot of training institutes. We hired thousands of people this year. We inducted 50 aircraft, thousands of people we've hired. I see top quality coming in, and we are really very happy how this whole human resource thing has come out. And last thing what I want to mention is very important, naturally, we must keep an indigenous Indian industry. That's Indian airline industry. And India has such a big potential that we can have a couple of airlines. You will have low-cost carriers, you will have full-service carriers. India is so big, if you talk in these dimensions, that we need a strong indigenous airline industry, which is also capable of building India as hub. If you talk to someone in Europe or US, nobody thinks like, if you hear Dubai, you think transfer hub. Nobody thinks to that extent about India's transfer hubs, and that's what we need to develop because India we have an ideal geographical position. We can connect Europe to Australia, ideally in the middle. We can connect China to Africa. So all the prerequisites are there, and if you all work together, we'll be able to manage all that, get growth, get better transfer positions, and look into a great future.
Thank you for that, Wolfgang. I will still wait eagerly for your book, even though you deny that you're going to write one. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got just maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. I've got a couple of questions that I must ask, so I will request my panelists to limit their answers to 30 seconds. I've got maybe 2 follow-on questions. Certainly, we talk about the role of ATRs, particularly from an aviation perspective, or Q400s, turboprops, to connect tier 2 cities with the larger cities. But what's the role of helicopters to connect tier 2 and tier 3 cities that you find, Mr. Sharma, if I could ask you to address that very quickly?
Actually, from yesterday and today, we had been discussing the growth of aviation. There is a sector known as general aviation, which is also part of an aviation as an industry. And I'm not sure everybody knows that we around have 1,200 aircrafts, including helicopters, business jets in this industry within the country as on today. They are on the registered roll of DGC. And when we, I just give you a few insights that probably what we are going to face in next 5 to 10 years to come. Yesterday we have seen the drone technology or drones coming to India. Policies are in place, will further improve upon. So they will also join this general aviation industry. Helicopters, in fact, in India has only been used for, generally used for the VVIP purposes or for offshore connectivity. Pawan as a company, as a government company, has been providing some connectivity to general public, particularly in northeast areas, Andaman Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep Islands, Jammu Kashmir, and wherever other places are required. But this new shift or new inclusion in this new civil aviation policy, policy 2016, and particularly with this UDAN, this is inevitable that this industry is going to grow. Why I am saying so is that in India we have around 600 plus district headquarters. As on today, there are only around 100 plus are on air map which are connected. 600 plus. So at least, and these are 600 district headquarters have no capacity or probably it's not even viable to construct airports into these district headquarters. How to connect these district headquarters to their capital cities or to nearby airports? Probably this is the only way forward. And drone in offing, but probably it can't replace that helicopter industry as such because the use is going to be different. Similarly, if you see worldwide, if we take a simple city anywhere or a larger city like New York, I had been to that place. The helicopters in India are not welcomed at airports because generally these are a slow-moving machine and our major airports are already constrained because of the slots. But there is a need to think that how to integrate these helicopter connectivity to major airports within the cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, where the cities has grown, where you need at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours by road to reach from one side to another. If I take an example of the Mumbai city, suppose if somebody is in Nariman Point, somebody is New Mumbai, somebody is Kolaba, how to reach an airport in 5-6 minutes time. So that is possible. That is technically possible. Only thing is this helicopter operations has to be integrated through air traffic management to the airport, and they are very simple as it is done by major airports like in New York and all that. Similarly, when we are constructing new airports, particularly bigger airports, we should think this into the plan that how to connect these, how to bring these machines into in. For example, I tell you that generally helicopter costs around 250 rupees per minute flying. Suppose every city is within 5 to 10 minutes of airspace connectivity if we talk about the intra-city connectivity. So let us say Mumbai to Nariman Point or any hotels, actually, they can be connected to hotel top to the airport top. And if you get that facility in by spending 1,500, 2,000 rupees, the people are in penalty available. For example, now seaplane is also on the offing, and that will also join the general civil aviation. Seaplanes are coming in, drones are coming in. How many manpowers actually these drones will require certified pilots, certified operators into this. So this is the thinking process. Probably general aviation has almost around approximately, I'll say, estimated around 10 billion of business in next 5 to 10 years to come. So the friends from outside countries who are into this industry, please look into this, that India is now opening up, it's booming up. As on today, in even medical emergency services, where that aircraft are used most, in India we have none. As on today, we only charter that medical emergencies, but there is no such agency or operational system where we provide medical emergencies. So this is one of the area which is going to come in the international world. It is around 20% of the strength of helicopters used into this system, whereas in India it is even not a 1%. So so this is the market, and particularly opening up that the new policy of UDAN, and it's going to grow. Let me tell you, at this stage it has been only opened for the elite states and all that. Once it is opened for the planes in the country, it's growing to go very faster, and there is a big market into this, and that's a point of consideration for infrastructure development into this area also.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Sharma. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 100 more questions, but I will have to bottle it in the interest of time. As I said, I will end just the way I started. Growth is not easy. Growth needs to be engineered. Growth is something that requires a lot of work from multiple constituents. We've got a few of them on the stage, but it requires growth and work from all of you. For the work that these esteemed panelists have played in creating growth in their respective areas and for their time today, I would ask you to give them a big round of applause. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you to the moderator of this session. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving us your time. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I guess you all know we're breaking for lunch, but I'd like to share with you that this is a very short lunch break, 30 minutes, because the Governor of Maharashtra is going to be joining us for the last session of the summit, so we have to be back in 30 minutes to get the rest of the sessions moving on time. Also, remember the quiz. Please participate in it. A new question is rolling out every hour. Download the SkyFit app and participate in the quiz, please, ladies and gentlemen. The winners of the prizes can collect their prizes from the AAI counter outside. All right. The special invitees of the minister at the CEO's lunch, we'd request you to please join us at the Grand Salon. I request once again the special invitees, the CEOs of the lunch happening at Grand Salon. For you and the rest of the delegates, please join us for lunch at the courtyard and also at the end of this corridor. Thank you all. We'll see you soon in 30 minutes.